We are living in the most innovative decade of our times. And yet, people will tell you how world is coming to an end, right? So there are people who will constantly tell you that things are worse than they actually are. If you read the news, you watch the news, you read the newspaper, every single day, you hear nothing but negativity. And you wonder, why is this crazy guy telling you we are living in the best of times and best is yet to come? And let me tell you why. So number one thing is, as a human mind, we evolved. We have a center of our human brain called amygdala. It is primarily designed to look for negative news. And here's the reason why. When you were living in the jungles of Africa, if you missed the good news, nothing happened. But if you missed the bad news, you didn't survive, right? So the job of amygdala is to look for all the negative news. And guess what? It is active. And the people who sell this advertising in the news, and they know it. And that's why they have a simple paradigm. If it bleeds, it leads. It's a bad news, make it a headline, right? Make it the asteroids are going to kill the humanity just like they killed the dinosaurs, right? Oh my God, we got to do something about it, right? Similarly, you constantly find that all of the problems you see today, in fact, I will argue that some of the biggest challenges facing humanity are the biggest opportunity for an entrepreneur. So if you look at every single thing that are biggest challenge, there is some entrepreneur who's thinking, oh my God, a big opportunity, right? And let me tell you something really, really simple. I'm an entrepreneur. And what that really means is, I can tell you how to make $1 billion. How many in this room want to make $1 billion? Raise your hands, come on. Great, let me give you a simple tip. If you want to make $1 billion, all you have to do is solve a $10 billion problem. That's it, right? Or solve a problem that impacts 1 billion people. God, if there are only 7 billion people, what if there were 9 billion people? There are a lot more problems to be solved. There'd be a lot more billions to be made for someone right here, right? So here's how we're going to do that. How we do that is you look at that problem very differently. So as an entrepreneur, the number one thing you do is, how do you define the problem? Because once you know the problem you're defining, if you define them incorrectly, you get the wrong answer. So, I can go through each of the big problems, and I'm going to give you quick tips about how to create a business around it and how to solve those problems, right? So we talk about the overpopulation. The population going from 7 billion to 10 billion. And we all talk when we're together and say, let's discuss, let's brainstorm, because there are two minds are better than one. What if there are 9 billion minds connected together? So let me talk about defining, how do you define the problem? So you look at the education system. Every one of us across the world will say our education system is broken. That problem definition is why we don't have a solution to our education problem. Because our education system is not broken, right? The fundamental problem is our education system is not broken. It is designed to do what it is doing, and it does that extremely well. It was designed for an era where we could learn certain skills and use those skills for the rest of our lives. In the world of exponential technology, where every single skill that you learn becomes obsolete in 10 to 15 years, it doesn't matter what you learn, it's going to become obsolete. So think about it. If your grandpa is using an old Nokia phone or old Motorola phone, and you go to your grandpa and say, Grandpa, your phone is broken, he's going to say, it's not broken, it's doing exactly what I want to do. I press the button, I dial, and it does the job, because that's what it was designed to do. What it doesn't do is, it doesn't download the application. You can play music on it, but it wasn't designed to do that. If you want that, you have to come up with a new paradigm of how do we educate our children. And that has to be learning to learn. It has to be the adaptive learning. It can't be the sage on the stage about how I teach is how every child learns. Every parent will tell you that my child is different. He learns differently, she learns differently. So why not adapt the education system how each child learns? If we can't teach them, and they're not learning, maybe it's time for us to change, to adapt how they learn, and that's adaptive learning. So there is no doubt in my mind, with the advent of artificial intelligence, we will be able to match the teaching with the way the kids learn, and we'll be able to come up with a completely new way of educating our children. And here's the beauty of the things. Once we educate people, wonderful things happen. First of all, they have less children, right? Once the people are educated, they essentially start to do things very differently. And if you can also give them a basic health care. So this is the next topic about health care. So what do? So you look at the things and say, in the last 100 years, our average age has gone up from, say, pick a number you want, into mid-20s to mid-70s. And people are going to continue to live longer and longer as we continue to extend our life. And we are almost at the cusp of understanding the human biology. And many people will tell you, we will never, because we're designed a complex object by God that nobody, no human mind can ever understand. But we are right at the cusp. And people say, but that's what people said 30 years ago when we had the Human Genome Project, that once we are able to sequence the human genome, we will know the underlying code of humans. And as we were learning that, what we realized that as humans, less than 10% of the cells in our body are own. 90% of the cells in our body are bacteria. So if you are so proud of yourself, you're nothing but a host for parasites, right? So what we are nothing but bacteria. And what's really happening is that these bacteria are what's the ecosystem that we have created in our human body. And as we are taking more and more antibiotics, guess what's happening? We're killing these bacteria in our gut. So the fact is, what's happening is our bacteria inside the ecosystem of our human body, once we change through antibiotics. And that's why I believe the prize that we here have is probably one of the most important prizes we could have. If we don't do something about the antibiotics today, we're going to be back to the pre-penicillin age. Now you're going to say, oh my God, I'm a fear-monger just like Lord Martin Rees here. I'm not. What I'm telling you is we have a solution. We will be able to find a solution to this. And the only reason we know it can be done is because it is very easy technologically. It is just something someone needs to put together to be able to detect a bacteria when you're sick. That means when you're sick, we should be able to easily detect whether you have a bacterial infection or you have a viral infection. And if you have a viral infection, it makes you feel good about taking antibiotics, but it does absolutely no good. So here's one other prize. We talk about energy. If you look at our planet is soaked with the solar energy, 10 times more energy than we use. And even at today, at the retail level, the prices of solar energy is coming down at par with the fossil energy at the retail level. And within the next 10 years, you will find the solar energy will be at par without any subsidy to be at fossil, right? That's only the beginning. When there are smart people, will be able to create the fusion energy, and if we are able to bring the helium-3 from space, you'll be able to create, using helium-3, a fusion resource where a small quantity of helium-3 will actually provide energy for the planet for generations to come. And the best part of helium-3 is the waste of a helium-3 is non-radioactive. So you're going to be able to come up with a massive energy. What would you do if you had that type of energy? You will be able to desalinize the water. So if you talk about the water problem, you'll be able to have plenty of water. 70% of our planet is nothing but water. Unfortunately, it's salt water. What if we have plenty of energy to be able to create a fresh water? Right? And also, if you look at the fresh water problem, really is not a fresh water problem. And the reason for that is, the fresh water, the majority of the fresh water is used for agriculture. So what if we can change the agriculture to use less fresh water? We can use aquaponics, we can use aeroponics, we can use hydroponics, or we can even modify the seeds to use lightly salted water. And if we were to do so, we will have all this fresh water for humanity. In fact, if you take a step further, majority of the agriculture is actually used to feed the cattle. So what if we are able to create the meat that we need without having a cattle? So what if you're able to use the synthetic biology, take a stem cell from a cow and actually create the muscle tissue just like the nature does? It's identical to having a cow with no eyes and nothing else except just the beef that you want. And if you're able to do that, suddenly you have all the agriculture for people and all the fresh water for people. So fresh water problem becomes nothing but a synthetic biology problem. And so as you start to see, once you put the human ingenuity and you put an entrepreneur with an incentive to create a massive enterprise, then suddenly with all these innovations that are happening that are at the cusp of exponential technology. The worst part of the exponential technology that even if it's doubling every year, when it's really small, you don't see anything happening until you hit the knee of the curve, and then suddenly you say, where did it come from? And that's what's happening. Once you have people who are connected with each other, the beauty happens. Not only they are connected, the people who used to be the consumer of information become producer of ideas. For the first time, these people's voices are being heard. Their solutions are being implemented. A farmer in India is able to communicate their ideas to the farmer in Africa. And every single person, as opposed to just being at the receiving end of information, becomes a producer of ideas. And when you do that, amazing, amazing things happen. So people say, if all these things were to happen, what would you do? And the answer is, until that happens, you really never know what people will do with the technology that they have at their hand. And the best example is iPhone. When Steve Jobs introduced iPhone, he says for the first time, we're going to have applications on these iPhones that you can build and use. And if Steve Jobs were to ask any single person, when you have that phone, what would you do that phone? I guarantee you not a single person would have said, I would love to throw the birds at the pigs. And that's exactly what they did, right? So with that, I'm going to actually stop and tell you that innovation and entrepreneurship is the solution to most of the greatest problems facing humanity. And don't let anyone tell you that it's not going to be possible. Thank you.